Why are you out here right now?
I'm taking out my trash. I live here.
Don't argue with me. Where's your ID?
Why do I need ID to stand in front of my own
Sir,
house?
show me your ID right now.
I'm telling you, that's my door right
hands
there.
where I can see them. Don't reach.
My hands are up. I'm not.
Turn around. Put them behind your back.
Hey,
you don't need to.
Oh my God.
I'm not.
You recorded this from the beginning. What did you see?
He was just taking out his trash. That's it. He kept asking why he was being stopped.
Did he threaten the officer?
No, not once. He stayed calm the whole time. People need to see this.
A police officer thought he was asserting authority over a suspicious man until the arrest paperwork revealed he'd just detained his own boss. The thing people don't tell you is how fast a normal moment can turn sharp. 1 second you're thinking about leftovers in the fridge. The next, red and blue lights paint your driveway like a warning you didn't earn. That's how it begins. Quentin Banksford steps outside his townhouse in Spokane, Washington, dragging a green plastic trash bin across the concrete. The wheels rattle louder than he expects. He's in worn sneakers, fleece zipped halfway, phone tucked between his shoulder and ear. "Yeah, I'll send it in the morning," he says into the call. "No rush." He reaches the curb and straightens the bin, lining it up with the others. That's when headlights slow behind him. Not a full stop, just a crawl. Enough to make him glance over. A patrol car. It doesn't pass. It lingers. The engine idles. Quentin feels eyes on his back before he hears a door open. "Hey!" a voice calls out. "Sir?" Quentin turns, keeping the phone in his hand. "Yeah?" Officer Ryan Colfax steps out, one hand near his belt, posture already stiff. "What are you doing out here tonight?" Quentin blinks once. "Taking out my trash." Colfax scans him, then the houses, then the trash bin. "You live here?" Quentin nods toward the front door behind him. "That one. End unit." Colfax doesn't look at the door. "Got any ID on you?" Quentin shifts his weight. "I'm on my property. Is there a problem?" The phone goes quiet. Whoever was on the other end has stopped talking. Quentin lowers it and slips it into his pocket. "I asked you a question," Colfax says. His tone tightens, clipped. "Why are you outside?" Quentin exhales slowly. "Because it's trash night." From a nearby porch, a screen door creaks. Someone pauses, pretending to adjust a chair while watching. Colfax steps closer. "We had a call about a suspicious person." Quentin lets out a short laugh before he can stop himself. "Suspicious how?" "That attitude isn't helping," Colfax replies. Quentin raises his hands, palms open. "Look, I don't know who called, but I live here. I'm not bothering anyone." "Where's your ID?" "In my house." "Go get it." Quentin hesitates. "You want me to walk away from you?" Colfax's eyes narrow. "Don't play games." "I'm not," Quentin says. "I'm trying to understand why this is happening." Across the street, a woman lifts her phone. The camera lens catches the porch light. Colfax gestures toward the cruiser. "Turn around." Quentin's head snaps up. "For what?" "For obstruction." "That doesn't make sense," Quentin says. "I answered your questions." Colfax grabs his arm. The sound of the cuffs is louder than it should be. Metal on metal. Final. "Hey," Quentin says, voice rising. "This is unnecessary." "Stop resisting." "I'm not resisting," Quentin replies. "You didn't even tell me what I did." A man from 2 houses down calls out, "He lives there." Colfax ignores him. Quentin is guided to the back of the cruiser. The door opens. He ducks his head, careful, like he's done something wrong. Before the door shuts, Quentin looks up. "Can I at least get my phone?" Colfax shakes his head. "You should have thought of that earlier." The door slams. Inside, the seat is stiff plastic. The air smells like cleaner and old fabric. Quentin stares through the glass, watching his own house shrink behind the bars. He thinks about the report waiting on his desk, the one due tomorrow. He thinks about how ridiculous this will sound when he explains it. Outside, the woman keeps recording. Colfax returns to the driver's seat, typing into the computer. He doesn't look back. Quentin leans his head against the window. "This is a mistake," he says, more to himself than anyone else. The cruiser pulls away from the curb, trash bins lined up neatly like nothing happened. But this stop is only the first crack, and the night is far from done. The drive to the station feels longer than it should. Streets blur past the back window in broken slices of light, each turn sharper than the last. Quentin shifts his wrists, testing the cuffs. They bite just enough to remind him they're there. From the front seat, Colfax's radio crackles. Routine chatter. A traffic update. A call about a barking dog. Life going on. Quentin leans forward. "Officer," he says, steady. "Can you explain what law I broke?" Colfax keeps his eyes on the road. "You failed to cooperate." "I answered every question," Quentin replies. "I told you where I live." "You questioned my authority," Colfax says. "That's not a crime." Colfax exhales through his nose. "You don't get to decide that." The cruiser stops at a red light. A pickup pulls up beside them. The driver glances over, eyes catching Quentin's reflection in the glass. Then the light changes, and they're moving again. Quentin swallows. "You could have checked my address. My name's on the mailbox." "Plenty of people say they live where they don't," Colfax answers. "So you assumed I was lying." "I assumed I was doing my job." The station comes into view. A low building with harsh lights and a parking lot stained with old oil. Colfax parks and steps out, opening the back door with a practiced motion. Out! Inside, the air is colder. Quentin's sneakers squeak against the floor. A desk officer looks up, pauses, then looks again. "What's this?" she asks. "Obstruction," Colfax says, handing over paperwork that isn't finished yet. The desk officer raises an eyebrow. "For doing what?" Colfax shrugs. "Wouldn't identify himself." Quentin turns his head. "That's not true." Colfax shoots him a look. "You can speak when you're asked." They move Quentin to a bench. The cuffs stay on. Time stretches. A clock ticks loud enough to feel personal. A younger officer walks past and slows. "What happened?" Colfax answers before Quentin can. "Guy got mouthy." Quentin laughs once, sharp. "That's what this is?" The younger officer doesn't respond. He keeps walking. Minutes pass. Then more. Quentin's shoulders ache. His phone is still back at the house, sitting on the counter where he dropped it. A sergeant approaches, scanning the paperwork. "Where's the ID?" "He said it was inside," Colfax replies. "So you didn't verify residency?" Colfax stiffens. "He was argumentative." The sergeant looks at Quentin. "Sir, do you live on Oak Ridge Lane?" "Yes," Quentin says. "Unit 12B. The sergeant checks the screen. Something flickers across his face. Not recognition. Not yet. Just curiosity. "Why didn't you just bring your ID?" the sergeant asks. "Because I was taking out the trash," Quentin replies. "I didn't think I'd need it." The sergeant nods slowly, then steps away. Colfax crosses his arms. "See, could have avoided all this." Quentin turns to him. "By doing what? Guessing what you wanted?" Colfax doesn't answer. From a hallway nearby, voices rise. Someone mentions body cameras. Another voice drops. Quentin stares at the floor, jaw set. He's replaying every second, every word, wondering where the turn really happened. The trash bin. The question. The tone. He thinks about how often this happens to people who don't have the luxury of a title or an office. How many nights end right here without anyone pausing to ask why? The desk officer returns. "Supervisor wants this logged before shift change." Colfax steps forward. "I'll finish the report." Quentin looks up. "Make sure you write it the way it happened." Colfax meets his eyes. "I already did." The words hang there, heavy. In a corner of the room, a monitor shows a live feed from a body camera. Quentin catches a glimpse of himself on the screen. Hands up. Calm. Confused. Someone else notices too. A clerk leans closer, squinting. "Wait," she says quietly. "Is that?" She stops herself as a door opens down the hall. A command-level supervisor steps out, tablet in hand, scanning names without looking up. Quentin hears his own last name spoken aloud, mispronounced at first, then corrected. The supervisor stops walking. He looks up. His face changes. But assumptions have a way of collapsing fast when the wrong name lands on the wrong screen. They don't move him to a cell right away. That's the first strange part. Quentin sits on the bench while the room shifts around him. Chairs scrape. A printer spits paper. Someone laughs too loud at something unrelated. Life keeps rolling, even when yours hits a wall. Colfax stands near the desk, shoulders squared, typing with short, angry taps. Every few seconds he glances over, as if checking whether Quentin is still there. Quentin breaks the silence. "Can I make a call?" Colfax doesn't look up. "After intake." "I haven't been charged with anything yet." "That's not how this works." A woman in a blazer walks through the room, heels clicking fast. She slows when she sees the cuffs. "Why is he still restrained?" she asks the desk officer. "Procedure," Colfax says. Quentin meets her eyes. "I asked for a supervisor." She hesitates, then nods once and disappears down the hall. The bench feels harder now. Quentin rolls his shoulders, trying to ease the tension. He thinks about how quickly control slips away once someone decides you don't deserve it. From the other side of the room, a television plays the local news on mute. Headlines crawl across the bottom of the screen. None of them mention him. Not yet. Colfax finishes typing and approaches. "Stand up." Quentin does. "What happens now?" "You're being booked." "For what charge?" Colfax pauses. "Disorderly conduct." Quentin lets out a breath through his nose. "That's new." Colfax ignores him and guides him toward a narrow hallway. The cuffs scrape against the wall as they pass. A door opens. A small room waits inside. Camera mounted high. A stool bolted to the floor. "Sit." Quentin sits. The camera light blinks on. "State your name," Colfax says. "Quentin Banksford." "Spell it." Quentin spells it slowly. Colfax types, then stops. His brow furrows for half a second before smoothing out. "You work where?" Colfax asks. Quentin looks up. "Why does that matter?" "Answer the question." "City administration." Colfax nods, as if that confirms something in his head. "Figures. What does that mean?" "It means you think rules don't apply to you." Quentin laughs quietly. "That's not what this is." Colfax snaps a photo. The flash is sudden, bright. From the hallway, voices carry. The woman in the blazer returns, this time with a tall man wearing a badge clipped to his belt. He stops just inside the doorway and watches. "Everything good?" the man asks. "Almost done," Colfax replies. The man's eyes drift to the screen behind Colfax. He steps closer. "Hold on." Colfax turns. "Sir?" The man points. "Zoom in on that name." Colfax stiffens. "It's just a booking." The man doesn't answer. He studies the spelling, then Quentin's face. Something clicks, slow and heavy. Quentin sees it before anyone says a word. "You recognize it," Quentin says. The man clears his throat. "Uncuff him." Colfax turns red. "Sir, he was obstructive." "Uncuff him," the man repeats. The metal releases. Quentin rubs his wrists, watching Colfax carefully. The man steps closer. "Mr. Banksford, I'm Lieutenant Gregory Holden." Quentin nods. "I oversee your department." Silence drops like a curtain. Holden turns to Colfax. "You didn't run his name?" Colfax opens his mouth, then closes it. Holden looks back at Quentin. "This shouldn't have happened." Quentin's voice stays calm. "But it did." From the hallway, someone whispers. A door creaks. A radio goes quiet. Holden gestures toward a chair. "We need to review the footage." Quentin sits, eyes never leaving Colfax. On the monitor, the bodycam video plays. The trash bin. The questions. Hands raised. No shouting. No threats. Holden exhales slowly. "This doesn't match your report." Colfax swallows. "I felt threatened." Quentin tilts his head. "By trash night?" No one laughs. The weight of the room shifts. What was routine now feels fragile, like one wrong word could break it. Outside, a notification pings on someone's phone. The video from the porch is already making its way online. But once the truth leaves the building, it doesn't ask permission before spreading. The room feels smaller once the door closes. Lieutenant Halden lowers the volume on the bodycam playback, though the images keep moving. Quentin watches himself on the screen, a stranger version of his own face, calm in a moment that shouldn't have required calm at all. Halden folds his arms. "When did you realize who he was?" he asks, not looking at Colfax. Colfax stares at the floor. "I didn't." "That's the problem," Halden replies. Quentin shifts in the chair. "This isn't about recognition," he says. "It's about why it escalated before my name ever mattered." Halden nods once. "Slow." "You're right." A knock comes at the door. A captain steps in, phone in hand. "We have an issue." Halden glances at the screen. "Define issue." "There's video online," the captain says. "From a neighbor. It's already moving." Colfax's head snaps up. "That was fast." "It usually is," Quentin says quietly. The captain looks at Quentin, then back to Halden. "The chief wants a full timeline." Halden turns to Colfax. "Start talking." Colfax clears his throat. "I got a call about a suspicious male." "From who?" Halden asks. "I don't know. It was anonymous." Halden raises an eyebrow. "So you arrived assuming a problem." Colfax hesitates. "I arrived alert." Quentin leans forward. "Alert isn't the same as hostile." The room goes quiet again. Even the air conditioner seems to pause. Halden taps the tablet. "Your report says he refused to identify himself." Colfax nods. "He questioned me." "Show me where that's illegal," Halden says. Colfax doesn't answer. Halden scrolls. "You wrote that he matched the description." "What description?" Quentin asks. Colfax swallows. "A man outside at night." Quentin exhales through his nose. "That's everyone." The captain's phone buzzes again. He glances down. "Media wants a comment." Halden sighs. "Not yet." Quentin sits back. "You're going to need one." Halden meets his eyes. "I know." Another officer peeks in. "Sir, internal review is asking for the footage." Halden nods. "Send it." Colfax's shoulders slump. For the first time since the stop, he looks small. Quentin watches him, not with anger, but with something heavier. "Do you know how many people don't get this pause?" he asks. "How many nights end with charges that stick?" Colfax looks up. "I didn't mean—" Quentin raises a hand. "Meaning doesn't erase impact." Halden stands. "We're suspending the booking." The captain looks relieved. Colfax looks stunned. "You're free to go," Halden tells Quentin. "With our apology." Quentin nods. "I'll take the apology. I won't take the silence." Halden hesitates. "Understood." As Quentin stands, an officer steps aside to let him pass. The hallway feels different now. Eyes follow him. Whispers trail behind. At the front desk, the clerk avoids his gaze. She slides his phone across the counter. "Sorry," she murmurs. Quentin pockets it. The screen lights up instantly. Missed calls. Messages. Notifications stacking on top of each other. Outside, the night air hits his face. The parking lot lights glare. He looks back once at the building that holds so many stories like his. Across the street, a news van pulls in. Quentin turns away. Behind him, Halden speaks quietly to the captain. "This goes higher." The captain nods. "It always does." Quentin walks to his car, hands still aching where the cuffs were. He sits, gripping the steering wheel, letting the moment catch up. He thinks about how close this came to being written off, how easy it would have been for the report to stand if no one had looked twice. His phone buzzes again. A message from a colleague. "Saw the video. Call me." Quentin starts the engine. But the hardest part isn't being released. It's knowing the story is only starting to breathe. The public meeting fills faster than anyone expected. Folding chairs stretch wall to wall inside the Civic Center in Tacoma, Washington. Some people stand along the back. Others lean against the walls, arms crossed, faces set. A low murmur hangs in the air. Not loud, just heavy. Quentin arrives early and takes a seat near the aisle. No suit this time, just a dark jacket and an open collar. He wants to look like himself, not a title. Across the room, cameras are already set up. A banner behind the podium reads, Community Safety Forum. The words feel thin compared to what brought everyone here. When the chief steps up, the room quiets. We failed, he says. No build-up, no cushion. We failed a resident. We failed the standard we claim to uphold. A few heads nod. A few don't. He continues. Officer Ryan Colfax has been terminated following a full review of the footage and reports. A breath moves through the room. Relief for some. Anger for others who feel it took too long. The chief gestures toward Quentin. Mr. Banksford has agreed to speak. Quentin stands. The microphone hums softly. He grips it once, then lets go. I didn't come here for an apology, he says. I came here because this keeps happening, and most people don't get a meeting like this when it does. A woman in the front row wipes her eyes. Quentin continues. That night I was taking out the trash. That's it. No raised voice. No threat. Just a question that turned into cuffs. Someone calls out, That happened to my brother. Another voice adds, My son. Quentin nods. That's why this matters. Not because of my job, but because of how normal it was. A council member steps forward. What changes do you want? Quentin doesn't answer right away. He looks around the room, making eye contact where he can. I want officers trained to slow down, he says. To listen. To treat questions like conversation, not challenge. The chief nods. We're revising patrol engagement policies effective immediately. Murmurs rise again. Quentin raises a hand slightly. Policies don't mean much without people holding each other to them. Silence settles. After the meeting, Quentin steps outside. The sun is low, casting long shadows across the parking lot. A young man approaches him, nervous. Sir, he says, thank you for not letting this get buried. Quentin offers a small smile. I didn't do it alone. Across town, Colfax sits at a kitchen table, resignation letter folded beside him. The house is quiet. No radio. No uniform hanging by the door. Just the weight of consequences he didn't expect when the night began. Quentin doesn't celebrate that. He doesn't post about it. He knows accountability isn't revenge, it's correction. Weeks later, new training sessions begin. Community observers sit in. Bodycam policies are updated. It isn't perfect. It never is. But it's movement. One evening, Quentin takes the trash out again. Same bin, same curb, same street. A patrol car passes without slowing. Quentin pauses for a moment, then finishes the job and heads inside. Before the door closes, he looks back down the block, thinking about how many people still tense up at that sound. How many wonder if a simple task might turn into something else. He knows stories fade fast online. Another clip will replace his. Another name will trend. But the lesson stays if people choose to carry it. Quentin faces the camera in the quiet of his living room later that night, recording a short message. If this story hit close to home, he says, don't scroll past it. Talk about it. Share it. Ask questions. And hold people accountable even when it's uncomfortable. He pauses, then adds, especially then. Because change doesn't come from one arrest or one video, it comes when everyday people refuse to accept silence as normal. If this story made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more real stories like this, and leave a comment about what accountability should look like where you live. By sunrise, the clip is everywhere. Quentin wakes to his phone vibrating against the nightstand, the screen lighting up the ceiling in short bursts. Messages stack faster than he can read them. Some are from coworkers, some from numbers he doesn't recognize. One from his sister that simply says, "Are you okay?" He sits up, runs a hand over his face, and opens the video. It starts mid-frame. A trash bin at the curb. His own voice, calm, confused. The angle is slightly tilted, porch light flaring across the lens. He watches the moment again, even though he already knows every second. "You live here?" the officer asks on the recording. "Yes," Quentin answers. That one. The cuffs come out faster than he remembers. Quentin locks the phone and exhales. He didn't plan on being a headline. He didn't plan on becoming proof. At City Hall in Boise, Idaho, a conference room fills early. Screens line one wall. Coffee goes untouched. The chief of police stands at the head of the table, arms crossed, jaw set. "We have a problem," he says. An aide taps the screen. Bodycam footage plays beside the neighbor's video. 2 angles. Same story. A deputy chief shakes his head. "The report doesn't match." "No," the chief replies. "It doesn't." Someone scrolls through comments. Thousands already. Some angry. Some tired. Some painfully familiar. "He never raised his voice," the deputy chief says. "And yet," the chief answers, "he was arrested." Across town, Quentin sits at his kitchen table, laptop open, sleeves rolled up. He joins the call on mute first, listening. A council member speaks. "We need to get ahead of this." Quentin unmutes. "You can't get ahead of truth." The room quiets. "This isn't about damage control," Quentin continues. "It's about showing people that rules apply even when no one expects them to." The chief nods slowly. "Officer Colfax has been placed on administrative leave." "Pending what?" Quentin asks. "Review," the chief replies. Quentin leans back. Review doesn't mean much without accountability. A pause follows. Someone clears their throat. Later that morning, Colfax sits alone in an interview room, hands folded tight. An investigator sets a tablet between them. "Walk me through your decision-making," she says. Colfax stares at the table. "I thought he was challenging me." "By doing what?" "By asking questions." The investigator taps the screen. "Questions aren't resistance." Colfax swallows. "That's how it felt." The investigator looks up. Feelings don't override policy. Back at City Hall, Quentin steps out into the hallway. A reporter approaches, microphone already raised. "Mr. Banksford?" she calls. "Do you think race played a role?" Quentin stops. He chooses his words carefully. "I think assumptions played a role, and assumptions don't come from nowhere." The reporter nods. "What do you want to see happen?" "I want the same thing everyone wants," Quentin says. "To go home without being treated like a problem." By noon, the department releases a statement. Carefully worded. Apologetic. Incomplete. Quentin reads it once, then sets it aside. That afternoon, he meets with a group of community leaders. They sit in a circle. No podium. No cameras. A teacher speaks first. "This happens to our students' parents all the time." A pastor adds, "They don't get calls from the chief." Quentin listens, hands folded. "That's why this can't end with me." Phones buzz again. A national outlet picks up the story. The neighbor who filmed it gives an interview. The clip plays on loop. At the station, officers watch in silence. Some shake their heads. Some look away. Colfax's locker is emptied before his shift would have started. Quentin returns home late, trash bins already gone from the curb. The street looks the same as always. Peaceful. Unaware. He sits on his porch and stares at the spot where it began. But footage has a way of outliving the moment, and tomorrow will demand more than statements.